Hello, Programming 11. We are back and we are going to be making some changes to our enemy. And I think it's going to make some interesting possible future inspirations for your project. We're going to make our enemy, well, first we're going to regulate how many times it shows up. We have right now this rainfall of enemies that just streams down. That's pretty easy to do. And then we'll start adding on the ability for an enemy to shoot a bullet just to like shoot it straight down, not aiming it yet. That we'll look at that in another video. So we'll get started. We'll take a look and see. Oh my gosh, so many, so many villains coming. We can't survive. It's just not possible. So first off, let's limit how many enemies are coming. That's pretty easy to do. In our game tab, this is getting pretty full here. I think I'm going to just first do a little bit of cleanup. And then I am going to add that in. So this is getting a little bit messy. So what I'd like to do is break this into sub functions. So this game function is really just, draw the background, add things to the game on a regular basis, and then this is the game engine part of it that like does all the work to tell all the objects to act and show. And then we have our debug information here. So I think I'm going to break this into a few functions. I'm going to say void. What is this here? Refresh screen, I guess? I don't know. It's not that exciting. I think I'll just leave that as is. Maybe I'll do void add objects. And then I'll do void game engine, which will be our loop. And then I'll do void debug. So what the heck are these things? These are just going to be new names for these things. So I can just tidy this up. I'm going to take out or adding new stuff. I'm going to stick it inside of add objects. And then I'll just put in add objects here. And then I'm going to take my game engine loop. And I'm going to put it here, game engine. And I'll stick it in here. And then I will take my debug code. And I'll just call it debug, which I already did. I'll just paste it in here. So why is this superior? You might think, I don't know, it doesn't look that good because now we have so many different functions. Yeah, but a lot of this code we don't need to touch anymore. So things like the game engine are kind of just moved out of the way. Adding objects, great. I can expand this the more objects I want to add. And then debug, well, that's something, again, I know where I can go. I can change this. Or if I want to turn off the debug, it'll be really easy either to comment it out or to put some kind of if statement around here to turn it on and off for when I press the F3 key or whatever when we're in Minecraft. We still don't know how to press the F3 key in processing, so let us know in the comments of this YouTube video if you know. I think it's VK underscore something, and we have to import some Java code to get the F3 key working. But in the meantime, don't worry about it. Anyways, our goal here, other than tidying up our code and breaking it into subfunctions, is going to be to go ahead and change it so that we don't add a new enemy every frame. We ever do it once in a while. So we can use the modulus operator here. The modulus operator looks like the percent sign. If I just type in a percent, you can see there it is. And what it does is it does division. It has nothing to do with percents, just to be clear. It does division, but it gets the remainder instead of the quotient. So for example, 8 divided by 4 is 2, but 8 modulus 4 is 0 because 4 goes into 8 2 times, remainder is 0. So it always gets the remainder. So if a number goes into another number evenly, it'll have no remainder when you divide it. So I can just maybe add a new enemy every 60 frames or every 30 frames or whatever. I could say if frame count modulus 30, then do this. So now only when I divide frame count by 30 and get 0. Oh yeah, sorry, I have to say equals 0. That's how I know it's equals to 0. So if it divides by 30 and gets 0, that means it's a multiple of 30. For example, 30, 60, 90, and so on. So it'll only drop on those, and that'll drastically reduce the number of enemies we get. We'll get 2 per second if our frame rate's holding. And now this is like pretty reasonable. I can now fight back, or I could just avoid them all together. We'll probably have to give the player a reason to engage with these guys. Whether it's score, which is not that exciting anymore as a motivator. Some time long ago in the past, people cared about score, and maybe there's still games where people care about score for bragging rights and stuff, but it's just not quite as exciting as a feature. So maybe the ability to gain like power ups or something, like when you defeat an enemy, maybe it releases a power up or does something interesting like that. Okay, so there is one step. So now what I'd like to do is make it so that those enemies shoot a bullet. And I'd like to be able to check for collisions, although I think a lot of that work I'm going to leave for you folks to do. We've already taken a look at that. I believe it was in the enemy class. We have some lovely collision detection code, and you could probably figure out how to make this happen with enemy bullets. But first, we'll go ahead and do that. And what makes this, I think, the next thing we're going to do very interesting is that we're going to have to play with our constructor. Our constructor is going to be a little bit different. Okay, so here we'll start making our enemy bullets. I'll make a new tab. I'll call it enemy bullet. Here it comes, class enemy bullet. Now you might be thinking, it's not going to be that different from our regular bullet. And I bet we could combine these two classes together. To be honest, bullet versus enemy bullet, they're probably going to be pretty similar. So if you would like to kind of combine them together, that's great. However, there is some niceties for convenience in terms of coding, where if these two things are separate, it'll be a little bit easier to detect collisions. So I'm happy to just do a little bit of repeating myself in order to make this more convenient to code. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to make enemy bullet extends game object as always. I guess not always, but for the most part. So we're going to have to make a enemy bullet constructor. It's going to call super. Now this is where things get a little bit interesting. So in our regular bullet, we send it to player 1's X and Y coordinates. Where on Earth are we supposed to send, or in space, I suppose, where in space are we supposed to send the enemy bullet? There's not a player 1 variable or something for each enemy, right? We don't have an identifier because the enemies, there's so many of them, we're not really keeping track of them with individual variables. It works for player because, we declared over here a starfighter called player 1. But individual enemies are not declared this way. There's no identifier for them. They're all hidden away inside of the array list. So how do we get a bullet, an enemy bullet, to go to the correct enemy that's doing the shooting? Well, I love this answer because it's very straightforward. It's to basically use our parameters. And you've seen us using parameters before in many other functions. Well, it turns out constructors can receive these as well. So what I can do is I can put into float x and float y. And those are variables I will send to the enemy bullet when we create it in the enemy. The enemy can send its x and y coordinates now to the bullet. So we'll send those along to the superclass. Our vx and vy, that's an interesting one too. I wonder if we might want to make that also something that we could send along to the enemy. I'll put it in float vx, float vy. Size. I don't think I need a size. Pardon me. I don't think I need a size. I think that's gonna be fine. So I'll just send vx, vy. We'll choose a size to be like 10, I suppose. It's probably yellow in color and has 1 life. Although interesting, I wonder what a bullet with multiple lives would be. Like a hard bullet or armor piercing bullet. Anyways, moving on. So that's the enemy bullet. I don't think it needs much in the way of show functions, and its act function is pretty straightforward too. So I think we're pretty much good to go with this class. And isn't this, I don't know if you're excited about this, but like we made a class that's fairly sophisticated in 5 lines of code. not including like this little gap here. Nice, right? Like this is where, life is getting convenient with this object-oriented programming stuff. So I hope you're enjoying it. We still have to fire the bullets, so let's go to the enemy now, and the enemy can fire bullets. So, do super.act, and maybe we'll shoot. So again, we're in the enemy class. We're just going to be in our act function. We can just do objects.add new bullet, and we'll say it'll go to our x and our y. And it's vx and vy. We can just specify here. Let's say it goes down, straight down. Now, oops, I missed a parenthesis. And, oh, sorry, it's not a bullet, it's enemy bullet. There we go. Big difference there. Okay, so now we can tell an enemy bullet to go to our x and y, and we can tell it to have a particular velocity. So it's going to be pointing down. Let's see these dudes shoot their bullets. Ah! Oh my gosh. They're not messing around. I can still shoot them because I don't have any collisions with these guys, but yeah, look, they are out to get me for sure. This is dangerous time. It's actually kind of fun. I don't know, like you have to like really get them on time or you're in trouble. Anyways, these bullets are a little extreme, so I think we could definitely improve this. Hey, you know what we could do? We could just do the same thing we do in the Starfighter, right? We could put in a cooldown and threshold in our enemy class, and that way they only shoot at the right time, right? You can basically just import this kind of concept, this concept over to your enemies. So I'll leave that for you to do. So I'd like you to go ahead and do that. I think what might be really fun though is to think about, what would alternative bullets look like? Like, could there be like a pattern of bullets? Like maybe it shoots, and this might be kind of different types of enemies. You might want to make, an enemy that shoots in a cross shape, a plus shape or something. What would that look like? I don't know. You can just put more bullets. Again, this is a little bit much when you have the firing rate that we have. So, yeah, I don't know if this is smart or not, but we're doing it. I don't know. I can just put in all the directions, I think. I think this is all the directions. Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. We'll see what happens. And then I think it'll shoot in a plus shape outside. It's too much. Like, oh my, oh dear. Oh, I clicked on the thing. Wow, it's like the Tholian web or something from Star Trek. Wow. It's actually pretty fun. I really like it. Of course, if these things did damage, we would be dead. We would not. There would be no time for us. All our base would belong to them. So yeah, you got to get that code going in. But you can do some fun stuff with it. I would like to see if you could make a few different kind of enemies. Maybe rename this enemy. Maybe this is going to be like the web enemy or something that's shooting out like cool patterns. You can experiment with this. You could also put in some like trigonometry in here and do some cool stuff with angles where you are shooting out spirals. You could do all sorts of fun stuff. So I think this is a good place to leave it. Oh, and one last thing. In addition to, coming up with your own kind of interesting enemies and, making them come out on the screen in, some sort of like planned rate, which you'll put them out with some kind of using modulus. So make a couple different kinds of enemies, or maybe several different kinds of enemies with different shooting patterns. And then also make it so your starfighter can get shot. Let's get dangerous here. Let's take damage. And in the meantime, you might want to, while you're testing the game, you might crank a number of lives, just to make sure that you can't die right away. But I think this would be a good place to kind of leave you to do some of that work. So good luck with that, and I'll make a point in class to sort of point out, this is the new activity. This is what you need to accomplish. Okay, so good luck, everybody. I look forward to seeing what you create. Bye.